Hello, wonderful friends. I haven't done a sit-down video for, I think, since around Christmas time. Just roasted my wonderful coffee. If I was, or one day when I get good at editing, I'll capture everything and actually have a nice little video that pulls a few things together. But at the moment, I just do like run-on sentences kind of thing. So, where am I? Got my coffee. Showed you my beans I just roasted. It's not bad. Oh my God. I don't want to sound egotistical or anything, but, and I'm not. I don't, well, everyone is to some degree, but on the coffee thing, I have a really hard time wherever I go now, and I travel around. Everywhere I have coffee, to me, it's absolute crap. It doesn't, that my taste buds, my tongue don't get reached in the way that I like. You know, it's like the little tip of the tongue, a little bit of kind of burnt something. And it doesn't matter where I go to like full-on coffee shops. Two well-known ones in Guelph. I won't mention names. It's not my purpose. Wonderful people, wonderful environment, atmosphere, but to me, their coffee is not worth drinking. And I'm like, what have I done? Have I created a coffee that maybe no one else likes and only I like, and I've developed a taste for it over 2.5 years? Maybe it's a bit of everything. I'm still on my 40 pounds I bought of Monsoon Malabar coffee from India. That is extremely, extremely mild compared to some coffees. Zero pH, no acidity at all. And I really like it. And I really like having the green beans. It may seem like it gets boring, and I did worry about that for a bit. But, you know, I do a lighter roast one day, a darker roast another day, a medium, you know, like I play around with it, and I never get bored. I mean, I can't wait to get some different coffee, but I'm holding off. I'm making myself use up a lot of this. I love it. It's really good, and it's very healthy, and you know, the zero acidity at all. Um, but yeah, I travel around and I get coffee places, and I end up getting lattes because lattes or lattes, depending on where you are, because it's just all milk and it kind of hides a bit of the burnt taste. But it's not my enjoyment. Like right now, my enjoyment in this coffee, and I think my ultimate of this coffee would be just a little bit darker roast, by a little bit. But I still I enjoy that slightly darker roast after I've had a slightly lighter roast. Not light roast, but lighter roast. Mm. Oh god, so good. Many of you guys have seen my little crazy thing here. I how do I get to all this? I'm all over the place, in a good way, I think, now, much more in a good way. Creatively all over the place, let's say. Um, I'm figuring out my winter plans, and those involve, of course, my creativity plans. And all my plans, of course, will affect you guys if you're interested in what I do. I just finished doing um, the Steampunk Festival, and I will be honest, I did it, well, very largely just as a support to Fergus, because I'll tell you, I have experienced the idea of an artist community or community supporting someone. I I never expected it, but I have been so supported by people in Fergus in so many ways, and it's like I've got two homes. A lot of people ask me if I'm gonna let go of this place up here in the forest, and I'm too tied like an umbilical cord to this place at this moment. I'm always willing to reassess at every moment in my life. There is no certainty. And that comes from one of my clients who had passed a long time ago, and someone else who now has passed had developed an ability to communicate with people who had passed, and this was the one of the big bits of information they got was there is no certainty. But Jan had said it to Anita in a way. Anita expressed this. It was really important that it wasn't like, there is no certainty. It's there is no certainty. Wow. Wow. Like a brilliant gem of discovery. And I always revisit that and I always go, it's speaking to me one day. It's sort of speaking to me, but I can't quite, it's like this. It's like a process. And later on, something will speak, another time it won't. So I'm just really learning how to go with the flow. And as many of you guys know, it's not the easiest thing in the world, especially if you've had a little jarring experience of sorts of any kind. The tendency is to use the metaphor of driving a car. You have a tendency to ghost your foot over the brake pedal or something, all the time. Or if you're a passenger, you're a backseat driver. That's what starts to happen with your life. And I felt that happen after Raven passed. Well, I felt that happening, that tendency, the shock waves building and going in that way. And I felt other ones in other ways. Now there was a certain confusion, so it wasn't as clear as I'm explaining it now. But over time, with my choice of observing myself, it's not a heroic thing to do, I'll tell you that much. It's just, I really didn't have a choice. I was thrown into an experience, and like in the movies where someone's being thrown out the back of somewhere and they're just bouncing through all the garbage cans, falling over and stuff. It's just, you just don't put up any resistance. You just go with the flow, find out where you land, and then pick up your pieces. But yeah, I feel like something is starting to happen, shift in a really good way. I know I'm consciously playing a part in it. I know my relationship with the world obviously would have a large part to play with it. My relationship with my art, big time, has a lot to do with it. I'm really, really, well, we all are, but I'm really on a journey that I'm now starting to feel more like I want to embrace. And the reason why I'm mentioning it is because of its effect on my art and my art's effect on my journey and back and forth. I don't know, I got back into whittling, which I did when I was young. And it's an interesting thing because it's not really an art form that I can make a living from, for example, and not that something it needs to be, which is why I'm bringing it up. It's very time consuming. It would be something that, things like this could be sold, but because it's a figuring out thing, if you do them, to push your limits, that is, like I'm doing. I went way beyond my limits, for sure. And I made lots of little mistakes and stuff, but what I'm realizing is it's the beauty in the little mistakes. It's starting, I'm not just saying it now to myself, but I'm actually seeing the beauty that comes through, and that journey of fix-its and blemishes and inner self-judgments for moments, and then releases, and whatever the pattern is. The pattern with my focus on sacred geometry, now I'm realizing that pattern when you look back on it, and there's a quote. I'm really valuable when I can't remember who it was. The quote, John Venable, one of my amazing clients from Colorado, who's coming back in November. We're born on the same day. Oh, now, did I just lose my train of thought? Darn, I should have notes or something. I'll probably remember in a sec. I wish someone in the crowd could just yell out where I was coming from there. But, well, I will fashionably lean towards something else, and then maybe I'll remember what I was getting at with John. Sorry, John. But anyways, I am on such an interesting journey. I always did say to myself, but I was really trying hard to convince myself of it at that time, that I am on a journey, and that I'm trying my best to embrace it and move forwards, and basically look for the silver lining in what I've gone through, because I knew on one level that you can't go back, so it really wasn't worth going into that kind of dynamic. And I wanted to be able to look for the silver lining. I wanted to look for, because I did believe on some level, hypothetically at least, that there's something to gain, that when there's a big loss, so when, there's sort of an exit from this, or at least conceivably seems to be an exit of something that you identify with, that now you feel you've lost, it's gone. I felt then that there would be a gift, and I've had a lot of experience with people passing and being with them in their last days and stuff, but just not at that time with someone as close as Raven. A whole other level, I'll tell you. And I don't know, I learned a lot. I mean, every person who loses a person, every person who loses a partner on the level like me, it's still different. The person's different, the partner's different, the relationship's different, the timing's different, everything's different. I thought somehow we'd all be in a club or something. But wow, hey man, this is what it's like on this side, But I have found over the years now that I was very right. I was onto something. I just wasn't fully embodying it. I don't believe I'm fully embodying it yet, but I'm closer to that on this topic, this level, and that is that I really now can say I do believe from experience that when there's a colossal perception of loss, there's something else that seeps in. It can't not get in. And I'll call it a silver lining. I'll call it gifts. I'll call it being showered with magical fairy dust, whatever you want to call it. There really is some gift being offered. But I feel like, and speaking from my own experience, that gift, you can't see it because you're not, metaphorically speaking, you're not facing it. You can't see it. Your back's turned to it. You're too busy battling demons of your own mind's invention. And this is from my experience only, so it may not be the same for you. But that's what I found. I was too busy battling my mind's demons, because some of those demons, as my mind is relaxed, aren't quite as powerful anymore. So it makes me wonder. So I'm still learning, and I don't want to say too much because I don't know too much. But I must say, for any of you that have had something similar of an experience and are a bit overwhelmed, grieve. You'll never stop grieving on a certain level. It will mature. But just remember that there are other things at work other than your perception of loss and grief and so on. There is more. on your plate. You're just not ready or able to even recognize it. And I think I'm coming close to a realization. I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but I don't know. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. There is so much being offered to us. I'll call it from the universe, circumstance, whatever, coincidence. Every moment, I think now we are offered something all the time. It's just, are we able to perceive? Now, speaking from the perspective of an artist, I think that's where my creative flow comes from, is some deeper part of me. And having lost Raven, it is really putting me in touch with a me that I wasn't able to be so intimate with, because my life had different goals, aims, and attractions and stuff. And so in many ways, I am now learning about what is the gift that Raven gave me. And I do believe on some kind of beyond our conscious human level, some aspect that we'll call Raven chose that which I'll call a sacrifice, knowing that to my human self, the loss of Raven would have some major effect. And Raven's beingness or non-beingness knew that, although extremely traumatic and painful and all that, and with many risks, no guarantees how I would receive all the experience, that it would cause a massive shift. And I believe Raven's soul, use that term lightly, I'm comfortable with it. Raven's soul knew my soul and gifted my soul with this human loss, but a soul gain potential. Because I could have just gone into trauma and not done anything else, and I don't know, killed myself or whatever. Like, there's many outcomes. There's no, Raven couldn't have been in a guarantee, so that would be the chance aspect of it. Some people say fate. Who knows? Who really knows? I love not knowing for sure. More so now. I go more into a sense of a level of trust. But anyways, that's the gist of where I have been growing, or nurturing my growth. And I would like just to say that I can't and won't separate my experience from anything. Everything's connected. I'm connected to you guys. I'm love to say how grateful I am for all of your help along the way. I really could not have done any of it without help, without assistance, without love, without all these things, and without, understanding. Thing is, when someone's going through an extreme experience, no one can fully understand what they're going through, and that is a big demand on them in certain ways. So I'm really hopeful and with great gratitude that my circumstance might have allowed some of you guys to fulfill some of your soul's callings. And so I'm learning that as well, is do not deny people their experiences. The experience of giving, of being given to, of all of these. I do believe we all need to have these experiences and fill them with our heart and soul, and we don't always get the opportunity. So here I am, at close to the ending of another year. And really loving my newly reclaimed whittling experience, which it's weird, how you can have a secret love for something. I always did. I had such an amazing memory of that time before I was 20, well before I was 20, doing these little whittling things. Uh, and they were just meditative. There was no other thing. It wasn't a marketable thing. It was just, you pull this little thing out, and a couple of tools, and you sit on a log. And I think I'm in love with that aspect, is go for a stroll in nature and sit down on a log and whittle. I think that's a part of it. It's the closest, I think, that I've gotten to something that I always wish I had explored, and that is playing guitar or some instrument, where you can just kind of sit down and pick it up and start strumming some chords, and someone either stops by and sings along or smiles as they walk by or something. Well, this is one of those little kind of mobile things that I'm really enjoying, or someone knitting on a bus or whatever. So it's my little, it does something when I'm doing it more so than my other art. And part of it is it's just how well it lends to a meditative state of mind. And the love ingredient, which is so important, and that is I really, really enjoy doing it. I could lose hours, which is the danger of it, because I have a bunch of things I got to do today, so I'm allotting myself a little bit of time to have my coffee and do a little bit of this. And then I've got some ordering to do for my tattoo supplies, and I've got to call someone about the chimney, and I've got to, work on my plate, get my place ready. I got a lot of getting ready, moving things around kind of stuff. So, sooner I get on to continuing, the better. But it is important to have a lovely little whittling morning moment here. I was hoping while I'm talking to get enough of a little new bit here done that I can just give you an idea of what I'm doing. It's turning out to be extremely enjoyable. Extremely enjoyable. But anyways, the summer is almost gone. I've got 2 weeks coming up in beginning of October in Fergus, and then we'll see how it fills, 1 week, potential of 2 weeks in Vaughan coming up beginning of November. So that should get me through to welcoming December. And then we'll see where we are from there. And where I'll be from there. Where will I be tattooing from, and so on. So this is all the uncertainty that I'm learning to embrace. And the funny thing is, friends, some of you may remember when I left I'll call it the big house, did I just lose? That's the thing when your creative mind wanders and then you forget. Went out on a tangent there silently to retrieve something, and then I forgot everything. It's partly because I'm so focused on this little, it's like skipping timelines and hopping over dimensions here. Same thing when I'm tattooing. Sometimes I'll forget my train of thought because I'm 1 foot in one world and 1 foot in another. And that's where keeping the train of thought going. That's why I always wonder what people playing instruments and singing at the same time and stuff, how do they coordinate it all? So I've got see how I'm just starting to give it a like two spirally snaky bits going around. So it's very satisfying, this kind of stuff for me. So I've got some interesting plans for this winter. I am hoping, if all goes together, I will have a studio space that I can use to set up for a workshop studio, to do a bit more of things that I don't really get a chance to do, such as this, and some other carving, whittling projects that I have kind of got sitting on hold, waiting for this kind of possibility. So if providing this all comes together, it's gonna be an interesting winter, because I'm gonna be split focused between my tattooing and my spending time in this little studio, if I can pull it all off. It's going to be a very, very creative and much more social winter than I've normally been having. My winters tend to get very, very quiet, and that's good. I feel that I got what I needed when I needed it, and now I've got another challenge. Oh yeah, I just remembered what I forgot. It was my nomad thing. I don't know if any of you knew or remembered, but I always knew that Daemon backwards phonetically is nomad. Daemon, nomad. And I felt when everything started happening and Raven was, we knew the inevitable. Just this nomad thing came up, and I felt like, well, why? I'm not traveling. In fact, I'm very stationary in the forest. And I thought, oh, well, I'm an inner nomad. That was kind of how I made sense of it, not knowing that I was going to be traveling again soon. So it's just, I don't know, just interesting. I thought I'd share with you how things have a mind of their own, and maybe this idea of fate, there is an element of it that is kind of like that. Okay. So I have a lot of work coming up once I know I have a studio space, if I've got a lot of equipment to move to that studio for the winter, and then probably a lot to move back for the spring. But we'll see, because there is no certainty. We don't know what's going to unfold. I don't, at least. And all I know is something just beeped. All I know is that I'm doing my best to open myself to opportunities that might be arising that I haven't noticed before. And I'm really just want to give it my all. Give it my all. I still, as you could imagine, anyone would imagine, I have some real emotional, mental, challenging times from what I've gone through, but I embrace them as part of my spiritual path. I don't think there's really any other way, but that's what I've chosen, is to embrace what as a sacred thing, not as a being done to me thing. And I am grateful every day. I give thanks every day in the form of prayer to the infinite, to God, whatever is beyond us, for all the opportunities that come my way, that I might not see at first as an opportunity. It is a journey, that I definitely know. not a destination. From my experience, that is. I did have plans uh, that this winter I was going to get completely out of debt, and then I was going to celebrate by going somewhere warm for a month in the winter, and writing the rough copy, at least, of my Soulprint book that's been pending for a while, and I really feel ready. But then a million things went a little bit differently, and I just don't know if I'm going to have the time to or the money to go away for a whole month like that. So it may be a bit more of a waiting game. I don't know. I would love if I could just do something towards that book. But anyways, enough of that. I want this book to come out really soon. I'm ready. So I'm going to have to make reality fit my plans at some point. But for now, it's just too much uncertainty to know how, where, when. I just have too many kind of getting things ship shape still. That I think I need another year to be where I was planning to be. But who knows, right? I really don't know where anything's going, and I'm learning how to let go and trust, and kind of, I don't know, operate more from my heart than my mind. I've always tried that, and I've always been aware of that, but now it's on a whole new, much more in-depth, serious level. I mean, I have no distractions, so. But one thing I must say, I want to say, and I would just want to share it with anyone: creativity, the whatever, whether you're doing a puzzle, doodling, whatever your creative thing outlet is, do it. Don't rationalize. Don't say I'm not a creative person. Like, I think it's one of the worst things in the world is for people thinking they're not creative, or believing they're not creative, or thinking themselves into not being creative. Maybe that's a better way to put it. But that's probably my biggest lesson I've been learning is we really, what's coming to me is that we really need healing. And I don't think that's a surprise new information to anyone. And that, but I really feel, being an artist anyways, that a large part of our social healing, which is going to affect every level, is going to be rebuilding community. And I think creativity is one of the building blocks, or the mortar, maybe. And then, I don't know, art workshops. I've done a few, participated in a few already: a Turkish lamp making workshop, a pyrography wood burning workshop. Just, for me, taking workshops, you sit down with a bunch of people you don't know, you do something creative. Before long, you're chatting and laughing together, and maybe exchanging phone numbers, whatever. But it's really nice. It breaks down barriers, and I think that's really what we need to be doing right now: dissolving barriers, and that's what I'm focusing on, anyways. Uh, my word that I work towards is being a bridger. I focus on bridging gaps, not the other direction. Not at a compromise for integrity. Integrity is important, and truth is important, and all that. But there are ways to be loving and giving and caring as another human being in the world today, knowing that a lot of people are going through hardships. A simple smile, a little hello, remembering someone's name. It's amazing. I went in, I like shawarmas, gyros, the Greek version, but a wrap. It works well. I love how the chicken is done on those spits. It's just really nice, and I can get a nice variety of vegetables in there, and I can eat it while I'm driving. And when I was in Fergus, there was a young guy running one of the stores, a burrito store, I think. And his name was Ankit. And I knew I was not going to remember that name. So my way of remembering a name is to find something that rhymes with it. So luckily, Ankit rhymed with blanket, and I never forgot his name. And it's amazing that small effort. 2 weeks later, I'm back in Fergus, and I go in there and I go, "Hey, Ankit, how are you doing?" Da, 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 da. And I ask him some really honest, like I care to know. And you could see him processing this and kind of like, what? Like, this guy actually sounds like he is actually caring how my day was or something. And so I found that felt good for me. I, from what I could tell, it felt really good for him. And that's for me is how I like to keep the ball rolling. Uh, we can't really do anything on a large scale. I felt like I could. I think many people wanted to believe they could. And I'm not saying there aren't some ways, but overall, this world is just moving way too fast. And there's some big things in motion that really I don't think can be stopped, except by forming community and just working together and not getting freaked out by crazy. Well, it's like when you're driving along the highway and there's an accident and you try not to look, but there's this urge to look. That kind of thing. Um, Boy, I wouldn't mind another coffee. I try to just keep it to one. But sometimes the coffee just goes down so well. Now, the thing is, I used the last bit of my cream, which is a little bit of a bummer because that means I can't. And I've tried the black coffee thing and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. There. Now, I doubt anyone is going to sit and listen to me ramble about almost nothing to the end of this video, but by some weird chance, if you are actually listening to this right now, that means you did listen through. And it either means you're crazy for listening, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just bored and say, I'll just see if Daemon has anything to say, or maybe it's just nice background noise. It is a bit of a ramble, and for sure, once I am at a different stage in my life, I will go back to teaching myself editing and stuff of videos, because it would be nice if I could kind of edit out bits and just make a nice, clear, crisp message out of a video. And I do think it's in the near future. It's just getting there. And seeing I'm working on being the now, I don't want to focus too much on getting there. Kind of step out, set my sights, and then go back into the now and stay in the now as much as I can. That's basically what I'm doing at the moment until I learn better. So, this little serpenty thing is now starting to look like I had initially imagined it to be. Somewhat. It's hard to get in there. It's weird, I love challenges, as you can see here. In some ways, I exist. Challenges keep me going, keep me excited about things and stimulated. But what I've learned throughout life is I love certain challenges and I resist other ones. And part of my thing I'm trying to work on is giving the challenges that I don't want to do, but I have to do in life, another look at, and just kind of reconsider, like, why is it that I find one challenge so liberating and exciting. And then another challenge absolutely puts me into fear, and I find myself procrastinating and compromising, or at least being tempted to compromise my integrity based on a fear that seems to be just a crazy perception, like a distortion of my mind. And that's where I'm at right now. And I just wanted to share that in case anyone's interested. That's what I'm working on. And that's part of Raven's gift to me, is the extreme conditions of my circumstance. I really felt like I had no choice, but I was like shot out of a cannon in that direction of potentially of healing. And then it was just up to me to pick up that baton or not. And I did. And I'm really glad. Because the last couple of years have been quite a journey. I wouldn't want to have to repeat it. That's for sure. But I'm glad I took the route I took. I need a bit better lighting here. I wanted to do, I'm talking about my little whittling thing here. I used to always do chains as well, and I loved chains because of the challenge and the look of them. And it's all, if you're not familiar, this whole thing is the idea of whittling out of one piece of wood, and then slowly it falls into place. If you're carving a chain, the one piece of wood falls into a chain. If you're carving a ball in a cage, that ball in a cage loosens eventually and is literally a ball floating in a cage, but it's from the same piece of wood, and it has not ever exited the cage. So that's what I'm working towards. At the moment, the ball is fixed, and I don't want it to become loose because I need the stability. And at the moment, as you can see, there's my little twirly thing that I will carve down till there's a hollow space in the middle, like with the other piece. And then my thoughts are to continue that spiraling into the little ball and then back. Will it work? We don't know. But why I'm mentioning it is just to give you an idea of how I leave things open. I have an aim, I have a goal roughly, but I'm willing to let it slide at any point into something else, another direction that just seems to be better right at the moment. So what was going to be a chain became a spiraling thing, for example, and it was based on a heartfelt decision at one point where I just thought, I don't know if I like the chain. I mean, I like the chain, but I don't think it's appropriate for going with the sacred geometry. I think it will distract. Yes, it's a show-off thing, the chain actually working and falling into place, but it just seemed like it just wasn't going with a good flow somehow. There was nothing harmonious about the chain with this ball. So I decided I would do the spiraling because I think the spiraling kind of helixy like, I like the motion. It speaks to me. I guess that's what it is. And I feel that with creative projects of certain sorts, if you have this intention, you can exercise and develop your ability to, with the creative process, to nurture and allow its unfolding, as opposed to pushing your direction, your intention on it. So it's an unfolding, it's an ensouling. It's a Stephen Harabuner, a master herbalist that I studied with Raven in Nelson, BC, was very much into an intuitive unfolding in the way that he worked. It worked more like an indigenous shamanic kind of process, with his herbs, where he would tune in with the herbs and communicate with them, and get impressions and feelings and stuff. And I know when I went to Peru and did ayahuasca with a vegetalista, ayahuasquero, it was that aspect of a different way of perceiving certain ways of medicine, we'll call it, or approaches to medicine, very different than ours. I find the other approach is way better. Developing the heart, using the heart as a deeper intuitive aspect of ourselves instead of the mind, which I have experienced directly can wreak absolute havoc on your system, can do horrible things to you. Anorexia, whatever. Like, there's crazy distortions that the mind plays. I'm not saying it has an intention or it doesn't have an intention, but it is a situation. And my mind beat the shit out of me during the last 2 years. And my job was to kind of like having a child. You can't just freak on this mind that's beating the shit out of you. You got to also, from what I came to realize, was I had to be compassionate, loving, with this part of myself, because it might very well be carrying an aspect of, say, a wounded child or something that was stunted by a certain experience, maybe, or other. And so I had a sense of tread carefully and don't get too reactive to your own mind, even though it seems like it just doesn't really have your best interest in mind. So I started doing that, and it's been good. It's been slow, but befriending yourself on a deeper level, I found out that in a sense, I could say I had some inner self-abusive kind of dynamics that were not sensitive to a deeper me. And for lack of a better word, I decided that I could consider some of the ways I treated myself silently as abusive. But because I had some not proper imprinting from my father as a child, I think it was just harder to identify, because I had this part of my mind active since I knew. So it took everything I've been through for me to start figuring out where my inner self-abuse, for lack of a better word, lies, and how does it work. And it's basically been a tracking, like you're tracking an animal, looking for clues and things. In a sense, I'm tracking myself, and I'm finding out a lot of great stuff. And the creative process, that's why I had brought it all up. I'm actually coming back to where I started. That's why I find the creative process has so much room for a deeper healing than anything that I know of. I'm not saying it replaces something, but it can have that deeper effect on so many things. So be creative. I encourage it, and I will encourage it. And that's part of the Soulprint experience too. I'm bringing people into a creative process where they have a part in it. I'm not just doing it to them. And that I have found, and my clients have found, can be extremely healing experience. But it's got to be, from what I know, the process must be embraced for it to have it, that capacity. And I think I've rambled quite enough for this morning. I apologize to anyone that's sat through this. Something is very satisfying about pushing a little sharp blade against wood, and it just squelches from just slices through and the little chip comes off, and there's this lovely clean little space left where there was a chip of wood before. I'm loving this little knife blade that I have. It's so tiny and it gets into such small places. When I'm whittling like this, I just feel like I want to be sitting under a coconut palm, maybe without coconuts ripe. They might fall on my head, but otherwise a nice relaxing sit on the beach and just sit there and whittle away. Could be absolutely wonderfully enjoyable. And I think that's what I'm going to work towards is getting a month, aiming for next winter, getting a month free where I could do things like write a book, work on a creative idea thing that I can then come back to and dive into. I'm hearing a noise just outside. I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to just go and investigate this.